Somewhere deep inside the most treacherous mountain range on the planet, China is building something that defies human imagination. Not just a railway, not just a tunnel, an entire train station carved into the heart of a mountain, connected to a rail network so vast, so expensive, and so technically impossible that the world's top engineers once said it could never be done. We're talking about $300 billion, thousands of workers in conditions that would shut down any project in the Western world, and a vision so audacious it makes the Great Wall look like a weekend hobby. This is not the future. This is happening right now. And by the time this video ends, you will never look at infrastructure the same way again.
The project is part of China's Southwest High-Speed Rail Corridor, a network threading through Yunnan, Sichuan, and Tibet, connecting some of the most isolated, extreme, and geologically violent terrain on Earth. At the center of it all sits the crown jewel, a fully underground high-speed train station embedded inside a mountain in one of China's most inaccessible regions. This station is not built beside a mountain. It is built inside one. Every platform, every concourse, every structural column buried under hundreds of meters of solid rock. When trains arrive here, passengers step out underground, surrounded by engineered caverns the size of cathedrals. And above them, a mountain that has no idea any of this exists. To understand why China would spend this kind of money in this kind of terrain, you have to understand the problem. China's western regions, Yunnan, Guizhou, Sichuan, Tibet, are home to over 200 million people, but they are cut off. Mountains, gorges, and rivers have kept them economically isolated for centuries. Roads are dangerous, flights are expensive, and traditional rail, the kind that follows flat land, simply has no path through here. The Chinese government made a decision. If the terrain won't cooperate, engineer around it. High-speed rail would be driven through the mountains, not around them. The result would be the economic integration of regions that have never, in all of Chinese history, been truly connected to the rest of the country.
Here is where the story gets terrifying. The geology of this region is among the most hostile on the planet. Active fault lines, karst limestone that collapses without warning, underground rivers that flood tunnels in minutes, elevation changes of over 2,000 meters within a single route. Building anything here is dangerous. Building a high-speed rail network here with trains traveling at 350 kilometers per hour is borderline insane. Engineers had to account for earthquakes that could shift the ground mid-construction. They had to drill through rock so hard it destroyed drill bits every few hours. They built ventilation systems for tunnels so long that workers couldn't survive the air without them. In some sections, entire hillsides had to be reinforced with thousands of anchor bolts before a single meter of tunnel could be bored. And the mountain station itself required the excavation of millions of cubic meters of rock, all of it removed through the same tunnels being built, in a logistical loop that would make your head spin. Let's talk numbers, because they are almost incomprehensible. The total rail network this station belongs to stretches over 1,000 kilometers through southwestern China. It includes more than 800 bridges and over 600 tunnels, meaning more than 90% of the entire route is either elevated or underground. Some tunnels exceed 60 kilometers in length. The mountain station itself sits inside a cavern with a ceiling height equivalent to a 10-story building. It has multiple underground levels, connecting corridors, emergency exits carved through rock, and a ventilation network that manages the air for tens of thousands of daily passengers. The station was designed to handle high-speed trains running at full operational speed, meaning the engineering tolerances inside that mountain had to be precise to the millimeter, or the vibrations alone would crack the structure apart. China did not build this with old tools. The project deployed some of the most advanced tunneling technology ever assembled. Tunnel boring machines, TBMs, some of the largest ever manufactured, were assembled underground because they were too big to transport through the tunnels they were about to dig. Artificial intelligence was used to monitor structural integrity in real time, with sensors embedded in the rock walls transmitting data continuously. 3D holographic modeling allowed engineers to simulate every geological layer before a single blast was detonated. Robotic systems handled the most dangerous sections, drilling in areas where human presence would have been fatal. And the trains themselves? China's CR450 generation of high-speed trains, capable of 450 kilometers per hour, are being designed specifically for the elevation changes and tunnel pressure dynamics unique to this corridor. Nothing about this project used off-the-shelf solutions. Almost everything had to be invented. If you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button and subscribe. We cover the world's most extraordinary engineering stories, and what's coming next will blow this one out of the water.
But not everyone is celebrating. Critics, both inside and outside China, have raised serious concerns. The financial cost is staggering, and questions persist about whether the economic return justifies the investment in regions with relatively small populations. Environmental groups have flagged the disruption to some of China's most ecologically sensitive mountain ecosystems. There have been reports of worker fatalities. The exact numbers are disputed. In a project this dangerous, operating in terrain this extreme? And geologists outside China have warned that building permanent high-speed infrastructure across active seismic fault lines is a gamble that may not pay off for decades. Some of the tunnels pass through zones where a major earthquake could render the entire route inoperable. China's engineers say they've accounted for every scenario. Critics say no one can account for everything when you're building inside a living, moving mountain. If it works, and early completed sections suggest it will, the implications are historic. Communities that currently take 2 days to reach by road will be 90 minutes from major cities. Agricultural and manufacturing regions
that have been locked out of China's economic boom will plug directly into the national supply chain. Tourism to some of the most beautiful and previously unreachable landscapes on Earth will transform local economies overnight. And internationally, this corridor connects towards South Asia, toward Myanmar, Laos, and eventually the broader Belt and Road network that China is laying across the entire continent. This is not just a train station inside a mountain. It is a node in a new global infrastructure grid, one that China is building faster, cheaper, and more aggressively than any nation in history. There is a moment, and engineers who've worked on this project have described it, when you're standing deep inside that mountain, inside the station cavern, and you hear the first test train arrive. The rumble builds from nowhere, the air pressure shifts, and then out of the tunnel mouth, a white high-speed train emerges from solid rock, glides to a stop in silence, and the doors open. Inside a mountain, at the center of nowhere, connected to everywhere. That moment is what $300 billion buys. That moment is what 10 years of impossible engineering builds toward. And that moment, right there, is why China keeps doing things the rest of the world says can't be done. If this story moved you the way it moved me, share it with someone who needs to see what human ambition looks like at its absolute peak. Subscribe for more megaproject deep dives, because the next one makes this look small. And drop a comment below. Do you think China's infrastructure ambition is genius, madness, or both? I'll see you in the next one.